Welcome to today's short screencast on finding your voice at university. This session will look at three separate elements, including communicating with peers, participation in tutorials and what you can expect, also what will be expected of you, and finally, presenting in a tutorial. One of the benefits in participating in tutorials is that it helps you to identify your own preferences and your own style. So think first of all about what your communication style is. Are you a more extroverted person or a more introverted person? Are you the sort of person who prefers to lead a discussion, or do you prefer to solicit input from other people? There's room for all different styles of communicators, but it can be helpful to discover your own particular preferences. It's important to say that there's room for all different styles of communicators. And in fact, this is one of the real strengths of the tutorial system, is that you're learning a little bit about yourself and your own preferences and your own style. Your participation in the group setting of a tutorial can reveal something about your own way of working. For instance, it might reveal whether you are the sort of person who's more extroverted, who likes to talk rather than listen, or whether you're maybe more introverted and you prefer to listen rather than talk. The important thing is to reflect on what you've learned about yourself and potentially then to think about how you might incorporate other aspects. So for instance, if you prefer to listen, building up that confidence to actively contribute to a discussion. You might find that you're the sort of person who naturally facilitates group discussion and perhaps seeks the input from people who may not have had the opportunity to make their voice heard. And you might find that you either prefer to lead or to follow group discussion. Of course, there's room for all of these particular styles, but the important thing is getting to know your own style and way of working. As you start to participate in your tutorials, it's useful to be aware of some of the etiquette around your contributions. So as we can see here, if everyone's talking at the same time, nobody's really listening, nobody's really benefiting from the ideas or the input. So there will be appropriate facilitation of your tutorial in order to make sure that everyone's voice is heard, but also that the relevant points are picked out. On the part of lecturers or tutors, they will have some expectations of you within the tutorial setting. First of all, that you attend. Attendance is sometimes compulsory and is therefore a compulsory component of your module. Even when it isn't compulsory, it's really important that you go to your tutorials and make the most of them. This is where you can ask questions, engage with your tutor, and engage with your peers. Your lecturer or tutor will also expect you to engage with the relevant materials and readings, therefore to do the preparation for the tutorial. This will really help them when facilitating the tutorial, but also it will help you to get the most out of it. Your tutor or lecturer will also fully expect you to participate in discussion and participate in group work. These are some of the unwritten rules of tutorials that you will contribute, and this makes a much more positive, productive tutorial. They'll also expect you to come up with some insights, with some questions, according to the relevant materials you might have studied and the readings that you might have done. And students have the opportunity in this interactive tutorial format to ask some of those questions or give their perspective. And importantly, lecturers and tutors can expect you to respect and also encourage your peers so that everyone's contribution is valued and everyone feels comfortable enough to speak within the tutorial setting. There are also some expectations that you can have of a tutorial as a student. First of all, it's learning more through those peer perspectives, and it may be something that one of your peers says that triggers a particular thought or idea in your mind. So learning from each other is really valuable experience. You'll also have that opportunity to contribute, whereas in a lecture you won't have an opportunity necessarily to contribute your point of view. In a tutorial, this is the space for you to interact and for you also to receive perhaps oral feedback on your points or your contributions and guidance too. So this is a particularly supportive kind of setting. Students can also expect their tutor to facilitate the tutorial appropriately. So this might involve soliciting opinions or contributions from each member of the tutorial group, and it's important that everyone gets the opportunity to speak. Another expectation that you can have of a tutorial is that you will be supported and encouraged, both in the academic side and also in terms of skills development, and your tutor can advise you and guide you accordingly. Students, of course, can expect to be treated with respect within the tutorial setting, and each student should be respected equally and will be respected equally within the tutorial group. And of course, a student can expect to have a very positive experience from a tutorial. This is where the material will really come to life and where you can engage with it in the most interactive possible way. It might be then useful to think of tutorials as a particular opportunity. So where a lecture may be more broad and wide-ranging, a tutorial can represent an opportunity to look at something in depth. It also is an opportunity for you then to deepen your particular knowledge and your expertise in a certain area with the guidance of your tutor, but also with the input of your peers. They also represent a chance for you to ask questions, to seek clarification about anything, for instance, that might have been covered in the lecture that you weren't quite sure about, or even, for instance, to ask for supplementary resources or guidance towards supplementary resources on particular concepts or themes. A tutorial is also a social opportunity because it allows you then to meet and also to build a particular kind of rapport with those in your group. And very often you find that students who meet in a tutorial group then become good friends, and that becomes a point of contact within your group. Your lecture may be a larger group, so a tutorial is a more manageable group in which to build those relationships. Tutorials also allow you to build your confidence and to support your thinking. So to build your confidence when you're starting to learn more independently, and to give you an opportunity to explore that learning in a slightly different way. It's also a chance for you to discover something about yourself, so learn about your own views and your preferences, your own style, for instance, your communication style, but also to learn perhaps about how you work in a group environment, to learn whether you are the sort of person who's a facilitator or a leader of a group. As part of your tutorials, you may be asked to present to the rest of your group. This may take the form of presenting a particular reading and highlighting some of the key points and arguments from that particular piece of work. It's important when you're thinking about presenting this work to think around 4 key components. First of all, the content of that work. So what is it that you wish to convey to the rest of your group? And think particularly about how you structure this. You'll want to be as clear as possible about how it is that you're going to go through this piece of work. Secondly, think about the time that you've been allocated to cover the content. This dictates how you can cover the material and in what detail you can cover it. Thirdly, think about your audience. So what you have in your tutorial group is a relatively specialised audience, but do try to anticipate some of the potential questions that they may come up with. So try to put yourself in your audience's shoes. Finally then, think about practicing your delivery. Try to make it as engaging as possible and try to make your structure and your content as clear as possible, and this can help your reader or your audience to follow. So think about those aspects of your performance and practice, rehearse your delivery as much as you can. When it comes to delivering your presentation, there are a few important aspects to think about. First of all, you want your presentation to be as engaging as possible. You want to relate it specifically to your audience, to those other members of your group. So you want to put yourself in their shoes to think about how it might be presented most engagingly. Try to use notes, cues and prompts. So rather than simply reading from a page, it can be more engaging to have some key words or concepts and to elaborate on those on a more ad hoc basis in order to make it a more engaging experience for your audience. Think of the emphasis and use it as needed. So think about things like the tone, the pace and the energy of your delivery. When you're nervous, for instance, it can be very tempting to speak very quickly, but try to slow yourself down, try to put yourself again in your audience's shoes and to make sure that you can follow your presentation from the point of view of an audience member. Consider as well the energy of your delivery. The more energetic, the more enthusiastic you are, the more engaging that can come across. When you're nervous, these nerves are entirely natural, but do consciously try to slow yourself down or pause as you need. Another important aspect of delivering presentations, and one which is often overlooked, is reflecting on the experience afterwards. Again, just like feedback, it's important to think about both the strengths and the weaknesses of your presentation. So think about, first of all, did everything go as you anticipated? Identify the strengths and where you performed well, but equally try to think about areas for improvement for the next time. And where you can, try to seek feedback. You may well receive this as a matter of course from your tutor and from your peers within the presentation space itself. So try to use that as constructively as possible to inform future presentations. If you feel you'd benefit from any additional support with presentation and communication skills, alongside any other key academic skills such as academic writing, critical thinking, time management and study skills, do get in touch with the Learning Development Service. Our email is lds@qub.ac.uk and on our website you can find some of our links to many different learning resources. I am the LDS contact for HAPP, so if you have any ideas for workshops or anything that you'd like to see that would benefit you this year, get in touch with me at l.mcguinness@qub.ac.uk. All the very best for the academic year and thanks very much.